Welcome to The Whole Story. I'm Anderson Cooper. There are 5 weeks left until the election, and the race remains extremely tight, especially in the critical swing states. Winning some of these states could come down to one key demographic, the Latino vote. Latinos are the second largest and fastest growing group of voters in the United States. The majority of them have historically voted for Democrats, but a growing number of Latinos have become Republicans, and many now support former President Donald Trump. CNN political contributor Ana Navarro is a Republican who's now supporting Vice President Harris in this race and recently spoke at the Democratic National Convention. She's been one of Trump's harshest and most outspoken critics. And in the next hour, she travels across the U.S. to see for herself why Trump appeals to Latino voters and which issues matter the most to them in this election.
Muchacha, vamos. We keep hearing about the Latino vote, this mythical Latino vote. At any given moment, any news channel, you're bound to hear about the Latino vote. And a lot of times, it's not Latinos talking about it. It's talking heads in Washington or New York, not exactly the communities that are gonna make or break the election. I think the Latino vote could be crucial to deciding these elections. And I wanted to hear it from actual Latinos. How much is being Latino part of your identity?
I think you're looking at it now. This is the one and only Puerto Rican club.
We're in the Heights, Luis Miranda. How do you describe yourself?
I'm Puerto Rican and Latino.
Do you even call yourselves Latinas?
I say Latine because it rhymes with saltine and I like it.
I'm a Chicano Mexican-American kid from LA.
I'm Cuban until the mariachis come out, and then it's Viva Mexico.
Hi, bienvenidos a Miami. Come in. Cha-cha. Come into Chacha's house where she sporadically lets me live. Vamos, Chacha. Dile, vengan, entren. The house is from 1923. It's called Old Spanish, which is a very typical architecture here in old Miami. Miami is a place where there is a little Havana. There's a little Managua, the capital of Nicaragua. There's Doralzuela. There's little Haiti.
There's so many factors that go into defining each Latino for who they are and who they're going to vote for.
And CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida with its 29 electors.
You see how well I'm doing with Hispanic? Do you see? They're going crazy. We have a 96% approval rating with Cuban Americans, 96. 96%!
We should not underestimate the job and the work that Republicans have done with Latinos, that Trump has done with Cuban Americans and in South Florida in particular. He's been very good, micro-targeting certain pockets, and certainly one of them was where we're standing right now, Miami-Dade County. I don't like Trump, but I recognize that he worked hard at getting this community.
Cubans for Trump! I see all these signs, Cubans for Trump, Cubans.
I think they felt like a favored class. It paid off, it paid off. Miami is very much of a melting pot. We have a lot of communities that have developed around different waves of immigration.
The weary refugees are led off to the Coast Guard buildings.
The original exiles were the Cubans. They came in 1959 and through the 60s, that original wave of Cubans who fled Castro, who fled communism. When I think of Trump, he reminds me of a lot of things that I've seen in some of the strong men in Latin America that we all fled from, right? The attacks on the free press.
Whoa, look at all of the fake news.
The wanting to tear up the Constitution and stay in power. There's something about the strong man that appeals to our idiosyncrasy in some ways, and it's what we grew up with. Men don't cry, men don't show softness, don't show compassion, don't show emotion. That's kind of ingrained into Latins from the moment we're born, and I think they see that toughness and bravado and they equate it to leadership in Trump. I'm feeling very vulnerable about being on camera without hair and makeup. If you ask me, what am I, who am I would tell you I'm a hyphenated American. I'm a Nicaraguan American. I feel very Latina. I feel very Nicaraguan. I feel very much a Miami girl. I've been raised here since I was 8. 1980, which was a year of a lot of turmoil and action in Miami because it was the same year as the Mariel boat lift. It was the year when a bunch of Nicaraguans like me were fleeing the Sandinistas. It was a year where a lot of Central Americans were fleeing because there was civil wars. The Nicaragua conflict bled into El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica. There were a lot of problems in Venezuela, in Panama. My parents tried to protect me as much as they could from what was happening outside. They were trying to still give me the life of a normal little girl. There was a bunch of immigrants coming into the US, and at that time, a lot of them were settling in Miami. We fled.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
And that coincided, 1980 was also the year when Ronald Reagan got elected.
Office of President of the United States.
Here was this good-looking, eloquent cowboy, Ronald Reagan, defending the freedom fighters and standing up against communism.
While they preach the supremacy of the state, they are the focus of evil in the modern world.
Not only was he standing up against communism that I fled, but he also was the guy responsible for giving me U.S. residency and citizenship.
The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986.
Of course I was a Ronald Reagan Republican. This little corner is like the altar to the now defunct Republican Party. I've been a Republican all my life. I've worked on Republican campaigns. I was John McCain's National Hispanic Chair. I supported Jeb Bush. So what am I? I'm a woman. I'm a Latina. I'm Nicaraguan American. I'm a Miamian. I'm an activist. I'm also fully American. Some people may not like it. Some people may not agree. And now, because I'm anti-Trump, all of those people who were part of my social circle, political circle, call me a communist and call me a socialist. Me, who fled communism. I get called a communist.
Would you call yourself a never Trumper?
No, I never refer to myself as a never Trumper because I just don't want to be defined by this guy. I call myself a disgruntled Republican at this point. I think I'm kind of like a woman without a party. In my family, there's division. There's people who are very supportive of Trump. We have to learn to coexist. We have got to learn to coexist. Doesn't mean that I will ever agree, but I'm interested in listening. Ed!
Welcome to Texas.
Gracias, hermano.
Bienvenida.
This is the southernmost tip of Texas and the northern bank of the Rio Grande River, which divides the US from Mexico. We're starting here because there's been a significant shift in politics here. The Rio Grande Valley is 90% Latino. It's a microcosm for what's going on in America. We're on our way to meet up with Ed Lavandera, CNN correspondent who's been covering this region for years and years.
Welcome to Texas.
Gracias, hermano.
Bienvenida. Gusto verte.
Ed, get me out of this truck. Nobody told me there'd be exercise.
So good to see you.
So where are we?
We are near the little city called Harlingen, and this is a really massive area. Kind of a quiet place, right? But because of immigration in the last 10 years, this place has really been put on the map.
So what brings you here today?
This has been a very, very strong Democratic area for the state. But in recent years, we've actually seen Republicans making inroads down here.
Do you think it's Trump specific, or do you think it's the Republican Party?
That's a hard question to answer. I think Donald Trump and the Republican Party probably combined. We interviewed a gentleman named Ruperto Escobar, who's a farmer. He lives in a little community near Roma, Texas, Escobares. His family is from that area for centuries.
And is Ruperto vocal about his politics?
Oh yeah, he's been vocal for a while. The Bush family turned him into a Republican years ago. He describes himself as a Hispanic American, but he doesn't have kind of that identity that you and I had. So it kind of really speaks to how difficult it is to kind of pinpoint the Latino vote and the Latino identity. Does this view get old for you?
No, it's a beautiful view, isn't it? It never gets old. And right now it's very quiet, calm. It almost looks nice. But at night, this place comes alive. And you don't want to be here. That's my grandmother's house. It's abandoned now, but I grew up in there with my grandma.
What kinds of problems have you had with smugglers here on the property?
One evening, I was coming from the field, driving a tractor, and I could see one window was lit up. So I knew that there was illegals in there.
So when that happens, does it bother you?
It'll be like anybody walking into your house and stealing something from you. I feel, yes, to some degree, invaded.
The way Donald Trump talks about it,
yeah.
You know, you've got rapists and killers and people straight out of an insane asylum passing through your property, but the way you describe it, I don't really feel like you get that sense.
No, because those people don't stop here. Never has anyone of them, the migrants, knocked on my door to tell me, hey, can I have a glass of water? Or can you please give me $20? No one has ever bothered me.
So as we're here talking, you can hear the roar.
Very common.
And here in a couple of seconds, I think we're about to see, my guess it's either a DPS airboat or it's a Border Patrol airboat. That's a common sight every day.
Oh yes, 2-3 times a day.
It's just part of the scenery down here.
Yep.
So it's interesting, though, because I describe it as ground zero for the immigration issue, right? Here we're at the border, and you say that for some of these people, like Ruperto, that's not the driving issue.
This is a farmer who lives on the border. Migrants pass his house weekly. He's had run-ins with cartel members carrying AR-15s on his property. And I think at the end of the day, what drives him the most is economics. Do you think Democrats or Republicans are listening enough to Latino voters?
That's a good question, you know. I think the Democrats are doing a better job of getting to securing the Latino vote.
Interesting.
What are you doing with all my tax money? I'm not eating properly in my home because I'm giving all this money to you. What in the world are you doing with my bucks? Makes me angry that they squander so much of it, both sides.
So was it local Democratic politics that turned you off, or was it national?
More than anything, local Democratic policies. But I'm going to vote for Trump this time around.
Is there such a thing as a Latino vote writ large?
No, not at all. Down here, you're going to find Latinos who work in the oil field, are hunters, so they're more open to gun rights. So to paint everybody with a broad brush is impossible, and probably like dereliction of duty if you're involved in politics.
So later today, we're going to go meet with Pastor Luis Cabrera.
You are a child of the living God.
He's the pastor of an evangelical Christian church. How much does religion and politics intersect here?
You just kind of watch the changing dynamics of the religious culture here along the border. And Protestants have made big inroads into what has generally been kind of a Catholic area. And I think that's a huge, huge deal.
Luis, thank you for welcoming us to your church. Muchas gracias. I didn't realize we had this in common. You were born in Nicaragua.
Correct. My father was involved with President Somoza in the 70s. And when they overthrew the government, we fled here to America.
Tell me about the Remnant Alliance.
So the Remnant Alliance is a team of organizations around the country that have come together to work with pastors and to help them get engaged against culture.
So you want the church activated in politics, in
all aspects,
culture,
yes.
Cultural issues,
in all aspects,
books.
Exactly.
We're the generals of the faith. We're the generals and the governors and the leaders of our community.
We have a similar story of coming here. You are Republican your entire life. I am too. But you are very pro-Trump. I'm not. So tell me, what am I missing?
I don't want to say I'm pro-Trump. As a Christian, I vote for him because he's the only one that aligns with my biblical values and morals.
Luis, the guy you support for president had children with 3 wives and divorces.
But you're talking about his past.
Does the fact that he's a convicted felon now matter at all to you? How do you align that with your biblical values?
He's not perfect, but that was his past. We all have a past.
Do you have parishioners who disagree with you politically?
I probably do, but they don't tell me.
When's the last time, church, that you heard his voice?
I'm not a Republican. I'm a man of God. I'm a Christian. I'm an ambassador of Christ.
But you do work in politics in a certain way because you have no issue using your pulpit to get your parishioners to vote.
While we are waiting for elections, God is waiting for his elect.
This country's founded on the separation of church and state. Do you think that's wrong?
No. As a church, as an entity, we have every right to tell any political figure, any business owner, if they're living wrong. That's our job. That's my job.
So you're not calling from the pulpit for people to vote for Trump?
No, but I mean, I would say it. I have no shame about it. I mean, I would tell people, yes, vote for Trump.
Pastors, we need to get out the vote. And guess what happened? She won because of a church.
And what I did 2 years ago when I helped Mayra Flores win that special election.
So Mayra Flores, a Republican, a woman, a congresswoman, who won a seat that had been held for over 100 years
Yes.
by a Democrat, and you were instrumental in helping her win that seat.
Yeah, I was her pastor, and I got the honor to baptize her.
What are you looking for in this election?
Oh, I'm looking for the church to rise up like never before. I'm looking for not a red wave. I'm looking for a holy wave. I'm looking for a righteous wave. Why is the church silent today? Why? I have free speech. And so that as a church, we have a voice too. People come here, they want answers. I don't want Christians not to vote. And then when they do vote, they vote the wrong way. I go, guys, no. We got to vote according to the Word of God. We don't need to make America great again. We need to make America godly again.
We're a little bit over 60 days out. What are you guys hearing in South Florida, in Miami? I'm back in my hometown of Miami at Giralda Plaza, a revitalized area of town where a lot of Latinos hang out, a lot of young Miamians come here. I'm here to meet with the Pelaez sisters. They are activists, they are quote machines. We met with them back in June, a few weeks ago. We're a little bit over 60 days out. What are you guys hearing in South Florida, in Miami?
We went to had a family reunion and kept getting pushed into corners because people wanted to express their enthusiasm. People wanted to
Is that different than how it was?
It's different. I think the sense of people wanting to be present, wanting to have an action. It's like every weekend, it's like, where can I canvass? Who's knocking on doors?
You all were hosting a debate watch party for the Trump-Biden debate. How did that go?
It was heartbreaking. I think everybody was shocked.
We were having a debate watch party with Luis Miranda and Latino activists in New York, New Jersey area. It was pretty devastating.
For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else.
So what'd you guys think? First impression?
I think it was a train wreck. I really do.
I think the next poll is going to have Trump ahead.
I think we lost voters. I think we turned off people from the process.
How quickly did you go from Team Biden to Team Kamala?
The minute he announced he was going out, I thought the only person that could step in was Kamala Harris.
Do you think it's a mistake to write off the Cuban vote, to write off Florida?
I think with Cubans, absolutely. They haven't made up their minds yet.
In my view, it's been decades of work and ground laying by the Republican Party, linking Democrats to communists and socialists. And I don't feel that Democrats have done anything to combat that narrative, and it's stuck.
Comrade Kamala Harris, you're fired.
We have a history of dictators. So when you have a guy come out and say, I'm gonna take care of everything, Cubans are like, oh yeah, I recognize that. That makes sense. He's gonna take care of everything. We've heard it before, and the movie is horrible. Can we change the script? I think the same about Ola. I think he's incredibly dangerous to our community.
He's become the most influential political voice amongst the Cuban American community in South Florida.
I would say the newer Cuban American community, yes.
He's running for mayor of Miami-Dade.
I don't think he has a chance.
I will offer the voters a hard line against those who will impose their socialist, communist agenda on our people.
He's on YouTube, he has a fan base.
Y hemos comenzado.
It's like he grabs at the low-hanging fruit and everybody thinks he's a genius.
There is a community that feels very connected to his message within Spanish language media.
Hola, hola.
Someone is willfully misinforming for the purpose of entertainment. I mean, I get the joke, I just don't think it's funny.
You're gonna show us your studio. How long have you been doing the show? ¿Hace cuánto haces el show?
8 años.
So he's been doing it from that chair for 8 years.
Y hoy mi programa.
My show is an anti-communist show, reporting on communist infiltration in the U.S.
¿Tú crees que aquí en Miami? Do you think in Miami-Dade, where we live, there are any communist elected leaders?
Yo no creo que hay líderes.
I don't think there are communist elected leaders, but I do think there is a communist infiltration.
¿Y tú crees que a nivel federal, tú crees que en el gobierno federal? Do you think there are communists at the federal level? ¿Hay comunistas?
Yo creo que.
I think there is a dangerous tendency to the left.
Not every Democrat is a communist.
No, claro que no.
No, of course not. In how they act, when as a politician, you defend the welfare of communists, your sympathies lie with them.
¿Cómo te sientes tú acerca de la gente que? How do you feel about the people that say that you misinforms?
Yo creo que
I think there is a way of attacking what they cannot silence, what they cannot overcome. I am politically incorrect. I don't say what everyone wants to hear or applaud. I don't need you to live here loving me.
Trump has been posting AI-generated images of Kamala looking a little bit like Che Guevara, calling her comrade Kamala. Is that sticking at all?
It's not sticking. You're not seeing any traction. You're not seeing any momentum behind that argument because this has been such a step away from a very tired playbook. We're talking about the economy, climate, housing, gun reform, immigration, and I think the energy has shifted.
In June, it was Joe Biden has a Latino problem. Now, I keep hearing about a Latino reset. Is that accurate? Is that what you're hearing? And is that playing out in Miami?
On the issues, I think we're persuadable. But the idea that they're going to come in and say, you're Latino, from the identity perspective and get our vote, not going to happen.
If I were to say, what is the campaign doing wrong? I understand that there's a very narrow path to victory. You have to hit those swing states repeatedly. I get it. You have an army of people here that are doing the work for you. Come once and let them know I'm with you. Democrats have to be aware of the fact that we're here and that we're gettable.
What do the campaigns need to do on the ground to get this vote out?
Expand. Yeah, expand.
Do a little more footwork.
We are in Cumming, Georgia, an hour north of Atlanta. You'll remember, in 2020, Joe Biden won Georgia by the infamous 11,000 votes. This year could be even closer. And 10% of the population in Georgia is Latino. We are here to speak with a multi-generational Mexican-American family. And at 2 months away from the election, these conversations can be fraught with tension. So let's go talk to them and see what they have to say. Hola, familia. Can you tell me a little bit about yourselves?
In 78, I entered illegally. Through the desert, through the hills.
And how did you come to this country?
Como todos venimos por el cerro. Like everyone else, we came through the hills. It was one day, but it felt like an eternity. We were about to lose our lives.
And how did you become an American citizen?
I fixed my situation during the amnesty in '88. I'm an American citizen. It's the first time I'll vote.
Have you decided who you're going to vote for?
I would vote for Kamala.
Y Emmanuel?
Kamala as well.
Why?
More so, just out of security. I don't agree with all the policies, but just seeing how unjust it is towards the migrant workers, hearing the experiences from my parents, seeing how we're treated simply for being Hispanos, Latinos. It's made me become an adult before I could even recognize what an adult even is.
Did you face discrimination? Were you bullied at school?
I remember when Trump was running for presidency in 2016, and it was probably the worst experience that I've had in the school system. Being called slurs, being separated from other students.
Do you connect Trump running for office in 2016 and becoming president to being called slurs at school?
The bigotry that was pushed during his candidacy in 2016 before he became president definitely fueled it. I think it was going to happen with or without Trump. He just amplified that voice for those who didn't feel like they could voice that hatred at first.
When people were throwing slurs your way and you were being separated, you didn't tell your parents?
No.
Why?
Because I had seen it happen so many times to my peers that at that point we're just quick to lose hope. I was called a dirty, and I'm not sure if I could even say it here because it just hurts. Being called a dirty wetback. How was I supposed to react? When it's an adult telling you this, they have so much hatred and bigotry. So it really hurt. I was just in tears.
I'm sorry.
I didn't really know about that.
I didn't know about this either. If I had known, I would not stay silent. I'm sure of that. I'm a mama bear when it comes to my children.
Like, how has it shaped you?
It really opened up my eyes towards different perspectives, and over the years afterwards, I began getting more involved in understanding the political climate and understanding what that means for me.
You chose to go to Dalton, which is predominantly Latino school?
So it is a Hispanic serving institution.
And you lead an organization.
Yes, the Latin American Student Organization. Now, what is ALFA's mission? To empower and develop Latino men and women. It's a student-based multicultural organization where we aim to just enrich our students as a whole through cultural enrichment, cultural education.
How are you going to feel the day you see your son receive his diploma?
I will be proud, speechless because of all the efforts he's made.
You're going to make me cry. I'm proud of you too. Would you ever run for office?
I want to. I see myself in the White House as president, at that Oval Office.
Emmanuel, I want to be alive and vote for you when you become the first Latino president.
But no, that's my goal though.
It's early September. I'm in Bethlehem, a city about 60 miles north of Philly. Here in Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris is polling higher with Latinos, but the state at large is up for grabs. I'm about to meet with members of a Puerto Rican social club started by steelworkers. I want to talk to these folks about how they're feeling as we are inching closer to the elections. So let's go in and see what these Puertorriqueños have on their minds. I want to hear about this social club.
My father was one of the founders here. It's late 1950s, the club was built so those that didn't have a place to go would come in here with families.
I don't think people realize the role of the Latino vote in Pennsylvania. It's the third largest Puerto Rican community in the United States after New York and Florida.
Let's talk politics.
We laugh because we normally have board meetings and we come here to discuss everything about the club. We end up having political fights instead.
We wind up having our political debate here.
There's not that many places where people can be having healthy discussions. We need more of that in this country. But okay, now cough it up. Who's voting for who?
I'm voting for the one that's right to me, which is the first female president.
I'm Republican with a question mark. I honor my veterans, and I'll die for my veterans. When I hear someone degrading us, calling us stupid, it hurts. He has done some good things, but when he opens his mouth, all that good goes to waste. We don't have to make America great again. America always been great.
Do you feel added pressure because you know that you are in a swing state that is key to winning this election?
We have to all get out there and vote and make sure that when we push that blue button, the Democrats win the election this year.
As long as my family is well, is happy, and enjoying life freely, if it takes me to stay blue, I'll stay blue.
So is this the first time you're going to vote
This is my
Democrat?
first time, Democrats, yes.
A lot of people think Donald Trump appeals to Latino men because of the machismo.
We have a strong character, but that machismo stuff, that's with the old school. The new generation, we're not like that.
What do the campaigns need to do on the ground to get this vote out?
It would be nice if they would knock on the door. Do a little more footwork.
And when did you start campaigning on horseback?
Yeah, almost 3 years ago.
Caballo politics.
I was born here in Southern California. I grew up in these streets. We're a very organized community. We call it the Comunidad de Caballo. people that are part of the equestrian community. Growing up, local council member didn't exist. That wasn't a thing for us. We didn't have a lot of representation. I try to ride regularly. I think the beauty of this community is that many people moved here from other places so they can have this lifestyle.
Put my foot in here. I did this! Armando, tell me about where we are.
This is Miraloma, a neighborhood in the city of Jurupa Valley. It's one of the youngest cities in California. Been incorporated for about 13 years. The city is about 120,000 people. My district is around 25,000. In terms of Latinos, we're over 70%.
So how did you get into politics?
I've always worked around immigrant rights and other policy and reform movements. Here in Miraloma and Jurupa Valley, I saw a need, and so I was elected to represent our ranchos. Oh, we're turning here. Let's hold here.
When did you start campaigning on horseback?
Almost 3 years ago.
Caballo politics. Do you feel that you're on the radar screen of statewide candidates and national candidates?
The reality is Latinos here feel that we've been failed by both parties. We've had attacks on one end and failed promises on the other. I was part of the group of people that was completely disengaged from Biden. He has almost as many deportations as Trump did during his administration. In terms of policy, we didn't see enough. So I think that's where they're losing Latinos.
What do you want to hear? What do you want to hear from candidates?
Well, from Kamala Harris, I want to hear a vision. I want to hear a proposal for the Latino community. I'm a Democrat, but when we talk about Democrats historically, there's been really a fight to see who's tougher on immigration.
Fixing the border is tough. So is Kamala Harris.
We need to hear how she's going to address the family immigration backlog. We need a humane approach to immigration. I'm not planning to vote for Donald Trump. I never have. However, what I hear is really a disengagement from the Democrats, the lack of true engagement with Latinos, with Latino men, with families.
Explain this phenomenon with Latino men finding Donald Trump appealing. Some of the appeal is about machismo.
I think that's false. There's consistent effort to cast Latinos as racist, as anti-immigrant, and as misogynist. I think that's a false equivalency. Latino men are trying to lead, right? They're trying to protect and provide.
Es que este es mi primer caballo.
This man, who came to the U.S. illegally as a teen, crossing the border,
A votar por Donald Trump.
he told me this was going to be the first time he votes, and he said he's voting for Trump because he thinks there needs to be control of the border and because he wanted a change.
The vice president always works on the same path, and I think that if she remains in office, we are going to stay on the same path in which they have set us on currently.
If you could talk to Donald Trump, if you could talk to Kamala Harris, what would you say to them?
How are we going to ensure that Latino families build wealth over the next generation? How are we going to ensure that Latino-owned businesses are thriving?
Have you decided who you're voting for?
I haven't. I think this is a major opportunity to pivot into a new direction.
All right, Ana, I want to drive you around the barrio.
Okay,
You're
Hector.
in your little perrito cha-cha. So right now we're in Boyle Heights, majority Latino neighborhood, mainly Mexicanos, but you also got Centro Americanos and just Latin Americans all over.
How proud are you of your identity?
Oh, it's who I am. I'm a proud Chicano kid. I was raised by the barrio here. Where Eastside Love and Boyle Heights, when we started playing at this band and coming up, Eastside Love always opened its doors. We met as young organizers, activists, movement heads in the East Side trying to change the world.
I'm from Southeast LA, so I'm a very proud Chicana. I have my bachelor's in social work, my master's in clinical social work.
And we also started playing music together. The music is actually a combination of music from all over Latino America.
How do you guys turn the social work, the community activism into music?
Everything I thought was true was based on a lie I learned in school.
We had a big vision for creating a world where many worlds exist. I grew up in the 90s, so it felt dangerous to be who I was. I'm a daughter of immigrants who were undocumented for a really long time.
Both our parents were undocumented.
Every time I see a poll about Latino priorities, immigration is not one of them.
For us, immigration is a big deal.
Have you ever felt otherized?
Oh, hell yeah. Growing up, I didn't want to speak Spanish. I remember when I was a kid, they told me if you speak Spanish, you're gonna go with the dumb kids.
A lot of surviving in this country meant not being noticed.
What do you want to see the candidates discuss?
I'll be honest, I was really hopeless a few months ago. We really cared about immigration reform, but we also really care about women being able to have the right to choose. And having healthcare and mental health services.
Are you feeling hopeful now?
I'm feeling hopeful. I'm excited to finally have somebody that looks like us, that may listen to us.
We're in Kansas City tonight. Kansas is not a swing state, though there are some seats up for grabs. We are here because the head of Unidos USA, the largest Hispanic advocacy organization in the country, has invited us to join her family in watching tonight's debate.
On the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before.
As Latinos watching it, what did they say that struck you particularly poignantly?
I just thought that Trump constantly focusing on immigration, fear-mongering against immigrants and immigration.
We have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking...
I think it's going to be a turnoff to a lot of Latino voters.
Are there any issues that they are missing talking about that would appeal more to Latinos?
Education.
Education.
Yeah. They always miss it, too.
You know, I think you are the first people I have visited with across the country who bring up education.
Demographically, Latinos are younger. We are graduating more Latinos into colleges now more than ever.
Is there anything the campaigns aren't doing that should be doing?
Yes. When it comes to Latino voters, our most recent Unidos US poll showed that 55% of eligible Latino voters still had not been reached out to by candidates or campaigns. That's just wrong, and it's a huge missed opportunity.
Is there still something called the Latino vote?
I believe there is still a Latino culture within America, that when you talk about family, it's about an extended family, not a nuclear family. So while a lot of us have been more Americanized, there are still very important ties. I think that is how I define Latino vote.
This is called a café cubano, un cafecito, a Cuban coffee. I don't drink coffee anywhere outside of Miami.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people can make is say we are one homogeneous blob that does groupthink. We are who we are, plus our experiences and our circumstance. What has come across loud and clear through this documentary is that nobody should paint the Latino vote in America with one wide brush.
I'm a citizen of the US, but at the same time, like, I'm taking the traumas of my families and the generations behind me. It's my duty to be loud about what I think we deserve.